This is Merchandise Mart. Transfer to Brown Line trains at Merchandise Mart. Doors closing.
I don't know why I did that.
Welcome to the Wisendale Weekly Wrap-Up, where we talk about architecture, design, everything in between. Got myself a mover and a shaker this week for a real casual conversation. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Patrick Clay, managing director at Partners by Design.
Nice. Yeah, brother. I mean, your name has been coming up a lot, even before pre-COVID. They're all like, "Oh, you got to meet Patrick. You got to meet Patrick." I'm like, "Damn, who is this dude?" So it's great that through COVID and through other circumstances that we're finally able to create a relationship for sure.
Yeah. The paths have finally crossed. Likewise, man, I've heard a lot about you.
Yeah.
We got mutual friends in the industry. Some of them are now working with you. Some have worked with you in the past. Definitely felt that when we connected, we were kindred spirits. So
yeah, definitely.
Happy to officially start the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so a little bit, just go ahead, keep it just explaining about who you are, where you came from, and how you got started.
How I got started. So kind of an interesting story. My mom was a colonel in the Army. She was also an artist. And, when I was growing up, all of my friends wanted to be architects, mostly because,
Where'd you grow up?
West Point, New York.
Okay.
So she was in the Army. We moved every 3 or 4 years.
Gotcha.
Moved probably 22 times in my life. But we were kids and we would go to the city and we were like, oh man, how'd these buildings get built? Who did that? How's that happen? My mom was like, oh, architects did this. So I was like, oh, I want to be an architect.
Yeah.
Right. So we would go back up to West Point and we would all look at Batman comics and draw. And we made a pledge when we were 7 years old that we get involved in architecture, be architects. And I'm the only one that followed through with it. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And where did you go to college at?
Virginia Tech.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. How long is that program?
It's 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5
and
years.
then
feels like 20.
Yeah.
It's like a prison sentence, I'm sure, right? I bet that's probably what it feels like.
I met up with Wood last week, and because we had a few different meetings back in Detroit to kind of plant our flag over there. Yeah. But
cool.
you met him back in New York,
yeah,
right?
in New York. Yeah.
So did you go up to
Detroit?
Yeah, so I was in Detroit last week.
Oh, nice.
Setting up all the meetings and stuff and trying to see what work is available out there.
Awesome.
But,
Woody.
Said,
Woody. Yeah. We were young pups. He just graduated 2006.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was, I can't remember if he was, I think he was working at the time as well. But we were young guys in the city.
So did you live in New York when you were younger? Or?
I did. So after I graduated college.
Yeah.
Moved there, worked for KPF, worked for Santiago Calatrava.
What was that experience like?
It was pretty crazy.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was nuts.
What was the office like?
The office was not what you would expect.
Really?
Yeah. It was almost like being inside of a church, Teams wasn't very large. It was relatively quiet, unless you did something wrong and then you're getting screamed at. So extremely intense. Working around the clock. So
really? Where was the office at?
It was 705 Park Avenue.
Okay. So right on Park.
Yeah, right on Park. Woody Allen's house was around the corner.
Nice.
The Spanish consulate was down the street. Hunter College was a block and a half away. So it was actually pretty cool. It was a big house. It was bigger than Woody Allen's house. He used to come over and hang out all the time in the office. That was a pretty crazy experience. Really intense.
Yeah.
As intense as you might imagine it being, and then multiply that.
Mm-hmm. What did you do when you were there?
Yeah. So the way the office is set up, you have designers and you have what Santiago calls draftsmen. So I was really good at 3D work. And that's kind of how I made my way through the profession. And so my thesis was about architectural process in college. It was about developing and creating architecture three-dimensionally, and now that sounds like that's what everyone does, but at the time no one did, right? Mm-hmm. It was pretty avant-garde, and it was about this relationship between the digital and analog development of architecture, and that's exactly how Santiago worked. So I shared that with them during my interview. I got hired. Next thing I know, I'm sitting behind the computer doing Rhino, printing things out, building real-time models with him, and then modifying the design and then sending it to the draftsman for them to manifest. So
Interesting.
yeah, so it was high design. That's it was pretty intense.
Yeah.
And the way that he basically ran this office was you would be in at 8:00 in the morning. Everyone had to leave at noon. You had to get completely out of the office for lunch. You didn't want to have any food in the office. It wasn't allowed. Thought that's how rats come in, and then you defile the sacredness of the space, right? We don't want smells in the office. So everyone would leave from 12 to 1. You come back. You work from 1 to 5. Santiago would go home, have dinner with his family. Before he went home, he would go around and tell everybody what they need to work on. Around 7 o'clock, he'd come back. And if you're still there at 7 o'clock, you're going to be there until midnight.
Yeah.
Or later, right?
Yeah.
And then when he would leave at midnight, he would say, "Oh, this is great. Now let's look at all this stuff in the morning." So if you didn't get stuff done in enough time and leave, before the 7 p.m. return,
Yeah.
you might get stuck there until 2 or 3 a.m.
Damn.
So, yeah. And I can only take that for so long. And
Yeah.
after the World Trade Center was under construction, I left. Decided to live in the city for 6 months, hanging with artists and poets, smoking hookah every day.
Nice.
Yeah. Figured I'll never get this chance ever again in my life. Then I went to teach at Virginia Tech and came to Chicago.
Nice.
Yeah.
You taught at Virginia Tech?
I did.
Nice.
I did.
What was that
Yeah.
life like? I always feel like once I retire one day, or maybe now I'd love to teach.
Yeah, it was boring actually. I
Yeah.
mean, it was nice. It was great during the school year, but after when the kids leave and it's summer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
It's great. It's great. It's great to give back. You know what I mean? It's great to give back.
You don't have to say that on this podcast. You don't have to say it on this one.
I mean, yeah, I think that when I'm old, right?
Yeah,
if I'm 70, I might go back, but
Right.
and teach. Maybe not there, maybe there, just because it's my alma mater. So it was
Yeah.
nice. It was great that they had me.
That's cool.
It was cool to see, the professors that doubted me.
Yeah.
And say, yeah, I just came from Santiago's office. You haven't seen me in 4 years, and here I am.
Fresh.
And,
ready. I know everything.
Exactly. You still talking about those old war stories?
Right.
You know what I mean? So that was pretty cool.
And when did you make it over to SOM?
2011.
Okay.
2011. Yeah.
And what was that like? I guess I'm just curious on all your corporate experience or work
Right.
experience. Like, what do you think was the most the differentiating factor between all of them? Obviously, you're at Partners right now, great firm.
Yeah.
Like, what has been your, I guess, overall view between all of them?
Yeah, I think, people always say, and maybe I need to go a step further back. I was an intern at SOM in 2004
Yeah.
in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And that's where I met Brian Lee, who was the head partner of the Chicago office. He's retired now.
Gotcha.
When I was leaving New York, and I went to Virginia Tech, I didn't want to go back to New York. My family's from the East Coast. I thought the West Coast was too far. So I called Brian. I said, "Hey, where are you?" He's like, "Hey, I'm in Chicago now. It's great. Come out." And I was like, "Okay." So again, I thought that I was just going to be here for a year and then head back west. And I ended up staying. But I would say that there's a saying that SOM is the greatest postgraduate education you could possibly have. And I think that, I learned things there that are kind of irreplaceable, right? And at Santiago's office, it was really about understanding the three-dimensional Rubik's Cube and stretching your brain and testing your physical endurance, like this ability to stay up forever in work and operate at like this really high computational and conceptual level was exhausting. And SOM is like this finishing shop for very potent physical skills, right? And so I think that not physical but mental, right? And I think that the professional skills I learned there, and obviously not everyone has that same experience, you really have to kind of seek that out. Either you seek it out or the partners kind of pull you into it.
Right.
They force you to do it. And when I first got there, I'm like, man, I'm not getting too involved. I'm laying low. Y'all don't talk to me. I'm just over here getting my paycheck. You know what I mean? And then before I know, like, hey, you should be in management.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
So is that where you had your first management role?
Yeah.
Management position?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So the tables turned, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, and I got to thank them for that, right?
Yeah.
Because it really, made me the professional I am today. I think that being able to synthesize all of the things that I've learned throughout my experience and journey, bringing that together is what I learned at SOM, you know, and then at Partners, we're just going supernova now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of thank you, I want to give a big shout out over to Tim at Coyne Associates for having us here. We are in the Cumberland showroom up in the Merchandise Mart on the 11th floor. Got us some nice wine as well. So big shout out to that for sure. SOM, big, larger firm.
Right.
How many people, like what's the largest firm you've worked at?
I think KPF was.
KPF?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we had 500 in the New York office at the time.
Wow.
2006. Like,
Yeah.
I was there for a short period of time, just a year, you know. Yeah, I mean, we don't need to talk about, but
No.
yeah,
No,
I mean,
of course.
it was cool. I still talk to those guys occasionally. It was just first stop out of college.
Yeah. I think Partners was my largest firm that I was at.
Yeah.
And now obviously we have a team of 3 and a smaller, but a huge network because COVID really is crazy on the market right now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how do you think, we don't have to dive too deep into it, but how do you feel the COVID is really leveling the playing field or really drastically in the architecture and interior design profession?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? I think being nimble is an asset and being small is an asset.
Yeah.
And when 2008 happened, there were a lot of people thought that, this is the death of the large architecture firm. And I think a lot of them almost died, but, they didn't, right? So, and I think that something like this, though, COVID, could actually lead to the death of the large architecture firm, right? And so we're saying it again. Aha, here it is. I'm like, it's going to happen now.
Yeah.
And I think that the reason why it potentially might is because, they're confronted with a lot of factors. Like, the larger the firm is, the higher the overhead.
Yeah.
Right? The bigger the ship is. The commissions are going to get smaller. Everybody's strapped for cash right now. Mm-hmm. So there's downward market pressure. Mm-hmm. It's going to be really hard to garner the fees that they have in the past and be competitive with a dispersed market. Yeah. Because right now everybody is working from home in some capacity. Some offices are planning to return. We are next week, actually.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
Yeah, but who knows how long that's going to last.
Yeah.
Suppose 10 people in the office get COVID, then what? Right?
Yeah.
So we've got to go home again? Right. And I'm just saying, you never know, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that a dispersed workforce that can sort of coalesce around a nucleus of some kind, and it could be digital, it could be small meetups like this. Mm-hmm. I think that agility and the diminished overhead could be an asset.
Yeah.
Right? Because
absolutely,
you can tailor the team to meet the pursuit, and you can tailor your fees to meet the purse. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of larger firms don't have that opportunity. Right. Yeah. So, and I do think that it's interesting.
Can you turn that just?
It'll be interesting to see what value. Sorry,
it'll
that's
a live edit.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what value clients actually put on design.
Yeah.
Right. Because is design worth millions of dollars? I don't know, but we're going to find out.
Yeah.
I really think we're about to. Right. And I think that they may think that it's not, and that would really push the market into a place where smaller, more agile, more nimble firms can excel. Mm-hmm. So the playing field is certainly leveled.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, I think that it also takes the modularity or like the standardization of things could possibly get pushed. If you're a larger firm and you create standards, like, you could have, we can design it or you can use our standards, but you're getting reception A, you're getting reception C, like whatever it may be. So I think that would be interesting to see if everything becomes standard, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. So if it's like sterile, if it becomes very obvious.
Right.
Aha, they did this for these other guys. This looks like test fit A. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
This looks like reception desk B, or it's like curtain wall A with floor slab B and form D. Like, yeah.
Well, it's always like the same thing as spec suites, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what typically create 3 different spec suites packages.
Yeah.
And then have all the buildings, I don't know if I've seen anything where it's been exclusive for a building, where there is spec suites exclusive for a building, but who knows?
Yeah.
I
made a few.
So
I got a few.
So COVID, anyways.
Yeah, I got a. All right.
So I when your name kept coming up, it was about the networking. The networking party.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that.
Feds night.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we plug it? Feds night?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know if it's ever going to come back. Third Thursday of the month.
Millions of
fans. Come and meet us. You can continue the conversation, be a part of the conversation. That started as a joke.
Yeah.
And it turned into something that was pretty cool. It was just a project team from, when I was at SOM, I was the lead project manager for Lincoln Yards master plan. And I would like to go out with the project team and the PM from Sterling Bay to have drinks every Thursday because we had meetings on Thursdays. So we would just go down to Federales because they have a vested interest in the spot. And I thought, hey, it might be, an added benefit to go there. So we would go, and then over time, this started to grow, right? And it started to get more interest and become a pretty popular thing if people had the time to do it. And so it was never formal or sponsored, but it was just something that I did for fun to try to expand my network, bring friends together, not necessarily talk about work, but interestingly enough, it really became a place where networking actually happened, right? Yeah. Which was pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting to just start something like with a seed like that, and then it eventually grow and grow. So what about like developments in the city? What are your kind of thoughts on all of that? Or I know that there's a few going on, and I know that Lincoln Yards just kind of adapted really quickly and started putting in the drive-in for people to go to, which is great. I think it's pretty awesome. But how are you seeing that affect the city?
In general?
Or in general.
Yeah.
In general and also, nationwide.
I guess we'll start with close to home, I guess. Right?
Yeah. And of course, we can take this on tangents or wherever you want to go.
Oh, okay. All right. I love tangents. So, Lincoln Yards. I mean, I love it. I couldn't have been as close as I was to it for so long, and like say, you know what, this thing sucks. You know what I mean? I don't feel that way. Just so I want to clarify, I don't feel that way. I don't know who's listening.
For the record.
Yeah, for the record, I don't feel that way. I loved it. I think it's awesome. I was happy to be a part of it, and I think that each of the mega developments that we're seeing in Chicago are really interesting. Yeah. Whether or not they'll
can we list them just because I want to do the range so that some people who are into architecture, some people aren't.
Right. So Lincoln Yards, that's more on the north side. You have the 78th, which is it's named after the 78th new neighborhood in the city, or the 78th neighborhood in the city. And then so Lincoln Yards is run by Sterling Bay. The 78th is run by Related Midwest, and then you've got Mitchell Reese, which is tangent to Bronzeville, and that's Far Point. Yeah. So
huge development.
It's huge. I mean, that one is like, it's so big, it's almost unbelievable. Right? I'm like, whoa, really? But I mean, again, if these things happen, I think it would be amazing. I just don't know what COVID does to the timeline, right? And I'm seeing some movement in the 3P area, right? So anything that is, anything that is a 3P, which is like, public-private partnership, I think has got a little more juice behind it. The Capital Development Board, they've got funding that's earmarked for certain projects in the city and a lot of them are located in these major development areas. Mm-hmm. I just don't know, if we talk about, 10 million square feet of office space, who's the anchor tenant? You know what I mean? I don't know. We have a lot of tech clients. Yeah, it's huge. And you hear like sometimes it's tech clients, right? But what did Twitter released a statement that said no one has to come back. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so it's really hard to if I'm a broker, I'm nervous. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know who I put inside these spaces. So I think that's the question. And then, so what is the pivot, right? And it was great to see that Sterling Bay did something that was different and unique with the space that they have, particularly for the interim, the near term. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think there's some other issues we have to tackle right now. I mean, we've got we got a lot of violence in the city right now,
Yeah, for
right?
real.
Like
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
even, and I'm not usually one to raise my eyebrow at it, but even today I said, what, 50 people shot today? I was like, what? It's Tuesday this week already. My God.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
Chicago is going crazy. And then New
Yeah.
York had 60 something people shot. So
Yeah, man, I think people are definitely. I don't want to say waking up because I think that everybody's been pretty woke for a while now. It just
some people have been woke. Now everyone's woke.
Well, true. Some people have been woke. I that was a very blanket statement for me. But you know, I just think tempers are really flaring up. And old head in chief isn't really helping the situation.
Yeah,
so
apparently not.
But yeah, 1 million square feet. I mean, I remember listening to the guy from Riverside talk about the deal when he brought Boeing into the city. And I just think to myself, like, what headquarters is going to come down and do something like that?
Salesforce, right?
You're right, exactly.
And I mean, we'll see what happens. I think they're going forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
They seem to be committed and excited about it still. So that's really interesting. But I think that might be an anomaly, right? I don't think that's like, I don't think that's the new normal or the rule for the current world that we're currently in. I think everyone's taking a wait and see approach. No one knows what the market's going to do. We don't know if people are going to, you know, corporate firms that have large human resources divisions, are they going to actually force their people to come back to work? I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
You know,
so it's
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And that's why the stipends are coming out, and that's why those are, you know, the work from home stipends and stuff. So that's going to be, but I mean, something has to happen, right?
Right.
Don't you?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe this is the new normal. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, you know, like coming down here today, it's like a ghost town, right?
Yeah.
The Mart is a ghost town.
Yeah.
There's a lot of beautiful furniture with nobody in any of these spaces. So
yeah, man. I mean, I think this is why, you know, I personally, obviously, I am a little bit biased on this, but you know, I think stuff like this podcast and stuff like other interesting things, we're having like the Wisendale Radio, like we're activating these spaces where no one really has to come in. Like right now, it's just the two of us. If anybody's really concerned how we're sitting here, it's just the two of us. It's the two of us in this room. But like the people are still seeing product, right? And they're still being activated throughout it. So it's just another way to engage people. I think is super important. But yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting time.
Yeah, but I think this is an interesting opportunity for you guys, right? For Wisendale to create something inside the Mart at this moment. This may never happen again. Right. When things rev back up eventually, and we don't know if that's 5 years. I mean, it could be 1 year. It could be, let me start back. It could be 2 months, 6 months, 1 year. I mean, and that's the thing. I don't think anybody knows. But right now, you are the king of the merchandise mart,
right?
And I would embrace that, right? Because it seems like an awesome place to hang out in, and I prefer being here actually when it's like this. Yeah, like not when it's crazy and packed and you know.
But when we talk about like rent and you know, Mark and I were talking today. Like, could you imagine just 4 months of people? Like, we were walking by one of the larger showrooms. Like spending that dollar amount and just getting really nothing in return. I mean, you know, that's a huge effect. And how are people going to react to Neocon? You've been to Neocon, I'm assuming, right? Right. Like how are people going to react to that?
Neocon's like Vegas. I don't think, you know what I mean? I don't know. Everyone's going to run around with their mask on with like, you know, Cumberland, like stitch on it probably, right? I mean, everyone's going to have a mask. You have like your swag bag is filled with masks and gloves. Right. I mean, but we have to see how COVID mutates too. I mean, I just think, and I mention this a lot. It's one of my sayings now, I guess. And people have quoted me on it, which is fine. But I don't ever want to design a space that looks like it was designed during COVID. Yeah. You know, I don't want anyone to say, "Oh man, they must have done this during COVID," right? I mean, that just like we have to, and if we have to be responsible, we need to bake it into the design in a way where it's disguised. Yeah. Right. To where it doesn't look so forced. And I think to me that just means furniture interventions. I think that it means the way that we lay out the spaces. I don't know that we're at a point now where we would build these hard definitive walls and environments that begin to dictate what a post-COVID or interim COVID moment looks like, because we could be out of it before we know it. Right. So I think we just
That's
kind of have to make do with what we have,
right?
right?
Damn, I hear you.
Yeah, and then it is tough, but I think that we will get past it, right? And I think, and who knows how office is going to mutate. I think that maybe some of the corporate headquarters and some of the larger corporate spaces may be partially utilized, right? And then depending on whether or not you have a suburban workforce, and one of the things that I like to think about, and I kind of talked about with my team, was if most of your office lived in the suburbs and half of your office lived in the city, and let's say you needed to reduce 50% of your occupancy, you've already got the 50% that needs to operate in the city based on who lives there.
Right.
And then those that are out in the suburbs, rather than working remote, they can go to a hub that's tangent to, the office in the city. So I don't know, it's kind of like the suburban analog, and maybe those things start to pop up, right?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that those will pop up.
Yeah.
You're giving away trade secrets now.
Yeah, I shouldn't talk about that.
Tell me about your wine. When did you get on the Pinot Noir? I know we're gonna go off on a tangent.
Is this a Pinot?
Is it a Pinot?
I don't know.
Is it a Malbec?
I think it is
It's a Malbec there.
Nice. Yes, it's a Malbec from. Yeah. I like it, man. It's one of my favorites.
So are you traveling a lot, or do you?
No, not currently.
Well, obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
Before. Well, you just
before.
you have a little man. So
I've got a little guy.
Yeah.
We haven't traveled really since. I mean, we took him to Florida.
Yeah.
But we haven't gone international.
Gotcha.
With him. I mean, we went international when we were expecting him, but so he's been to Italy, and he's been to Ireland, and but
have you been to like the Salon de Meuble or the Architectural Biennial or anything?
Yeah,
like that?
I have actually. I've been to the in Venice, the Biennale they call it, right? Yeah. So I've been there, and actually it was the Art Biennale when I was in Venice, a couple years ago. Man. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Awesome. Yeah. It was awesome. It was great. I mean, we got lost in Venice, like in a good way, right? Yeah. So I always try to get away from the tourists. Yeah. Yeah. And that city is tough. We were only there for 3 nights. Okay. But it was great. And it was, I'd been there before and I didn't want to go, but my wife had never been. Yeah. Because I'm like, oh God, this place is such a tourist trap, And she ended up picking this great hotel, which was not surrounded by tourists. Mm-hmm. We ended up finding these great restaurants where we were the only tourists, right? And we kind of managed to just avoid tourists the whole time. And it ended up being, my favorite part of Italy. So, and I was
not seeing anybody, just seeing locals.
Yeah, exactly. Getting lost in Venice, obviously, like, you hit a few strips and people are shopping and everything. But, we were, for the most part, it was cool. It was fun. And they say that there are no children in Venice, right? People don't live there. They don't go to school there. I mean, I saw schools of like, kindergarten kids running with their backpacks on. Yeah. And I'm like, what are they talking about? I guess you guys have just been spending time in the tourist area of Venice, huh? Not us. You know what I mean? I was like, it's the street cred. So.
Well, speaking of hotels, I did read of one solution that a hotel, I forgot what city it was, but they turned the rooms into private offices so that they had enough space and you could get away from the house or do whatever and go down to hotels. And I think I just read something that the Nobu Robert De Niro's in the West Loop is scheduled to open or opened up the restaurant or something like that.
Yeah.
But, hospitality design, the reason I'm bringing up Robert De Niro, tell us a little bit about, or talk to me a little bit more about like the movies and stuff like that. Like, I know we mentioned
movies. Did I mention movies?
You have in the past.
Oh man,
I don't know if that's too much.
Oh man, yeah. I don't want to trade secrets.
I gotcha.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
Yeah,
but the hotels. What hotels do you like in the city down here?
Well, I can't say none, right?
True. Very true. And we do have to off the record, we have to get into movies, and we should talk about that. Off the record.
Yeah. Okay, but what aspect of movies do we want to get into? Movies that we might want to see, like Tenet, the new, I don't know if you've seen that trailer.
Oh my gosh! So you just talked about 1 million square feet need to be activated. How about we just record a movie in there?
We should do that.
A little pilot.
Yeah, right. shoot a
set
film.
design, the whole
Yeah.
9.
That would be awesome. Now we just have to find somebody to fund it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, it would be the tenant broker to show.
That's right. Hey, there you go.
You know,
Right? We know lots of brokers.
this is true. They have
We
to
should find out who's
activate the
representing that space. Let's get some tenant rep brokers in here. Be like, hey, listen, we got this idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a Wisendale exclusive. Who's
Why is it
Wisendale?
exclusive? Patent
Wisendale exclusive. I'm helping the other team here. I'm brainstorming for Wisendale.
No, I do want to thank you for being open to coming on, because I think like this sharing the information, I think, is super important, right? And the networking, you get the networking, and having I know you were on a podcast recently too, but I think that information is important, and sharing that information and shit like that too. So
the Hoxton Hotel, I mean, like everyone
Hoxton's
talks about
nice.
it, and like not to plug the competition again, but it's a cool place to go. I mean, I will say I do prefer like the Lazy Bird speakeasy beneath to even like the rooftop experience, or the lobby of the space, just because I just feel like there's too much furniture in there sometimes.
A lot of furniture.
I'm like, boom, oh my God, I can't go. I turn and I bump into a sofa. You know what I mean? It's like, there's just too much furniture in here. I mean, you got more furniture than this showroom. You know what I mean? You got more furniture than the merchandise mart. I was like, yo. The first time I went in there, I didn't know who designed it. I said, who designed this space? I need to talk to them. They got way too much furniture in here.
Was it G?
It was Greg.
Was it Greg?
Yeah, it was Greg.
What I thought. Yeah.
That's
so
but
fun.
but that's like but the speakeasy, I like, it's cool. I like to it's fun to go down there, listen to some guys play music. The vibe is nice. I just think that
the Ace, I feel, is always nice. I like the style. I mean, the staff really make that.
Oh yeah,
I mean, I know that hospitality is around in general makes the hotel.
Some people don't look at it that way though, right? Because for a while, and I always say this to my wife, they think it's cute to be rude.
Yeah.
to their clients. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right? That doesn't make me happy. I don't like that, right? It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna tip her big because she's treating me bad.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. So you're right. So good service stands out, for that reason. Because I think that for a while we did go through a period where everyone thought it was cool to be rude, and it's totally not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Roby's really nice too.
I haven't been to the Roby.
That's in Wicker Park over there. But all the classics. I liked what they were doing at Freehand, obviously on Ohio. But who knows, man? That's still crazy to think like what's going on right now with the COVID and the hospitality. Yeah. It's still dire for sure.
Yeah, it's very dire. A restaurant in my neighborhood, they had to close for a couple of days because one of the staff members got COVID. They wouldn't say, who it was, but I did see the chef and everybody out on the street getting fussed out. So,
damn.
Yeah. So I'm thinking it was somebody in the kitchen.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So what do you do for hobbies? Or I mean, I know you're reading a little bit. And
hobbies right now, I would say would be.
I know you got a kid and stuff.
That's kind of it. That's kind of it. There's no one's making TV shows right now, so there's nothing to watch, right? So it's like I finished Netflix, right? You know what
exactly.
I mean? So aside from the playing with the little guy, obviously keeping the pencil sharp in regards to knowledge that might be gained, whether it be architecture or investment. How do we differentiate ourselves and help expand our knowledge and wealth. And one of the things, I mean, obviously I like shoes. So.
Yeah. I see what those are.
Yeah. I'm looking at, watching StockX a little bit.
Yeah.
Looking at a few sneaks, wondering if I might buy a couple and put them on the market.
Yeah.
So just kind of thinking
nice
about
little
it.
hobby like that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
What other cities are you like keeping your ear to or?
I would say I'm kind of not at the moment, to be honest. I'm not at the moment.
Oh, you're not?
No, I'm not. And I probably should be, but I haven't really thought about
not to move. I'm just saying in general, like that are making some good architecture. Or development. It's so tough because some of these questions just land they don't land because shit's not happening.
That's exactly right, and that's what I'm gonna say. I was like, well, and maybe I'll put it this way: I've been so focused on trying to drive our business forward here regionally and hold on to like professional relationships that have been acquired and gained pre-COVID, that I haven't given much thought to, like expanding into, either secondary markets or smaller markets, or even trying to be like, man, what are these guys doing over here? That's pretty awesome. But I would love to get into Detroit, and I know you guys are from there. I got friends from there.
Don't go to Detroit.
You got to cover it.
I got that covered.
You're gonna lock it down. All right, cool, man. You gonna look after Detroit for me?
I'm trying.
Yeah?
I'm trying.
All right.
I mean, if you want to do it together, maybe of course we could do that. But
hey, man.
yeah, no, Detroit is
a little collab.
It was. I mean, last week it was definitely a sight to see. People were still out, and I felt more comfortable downtown with the mixture of cultures than I did where my parents live, because I just felt like downtown, like everybody's on the same spot, right? And everybody's on the same mentality. Don't give a shit what you look like, nothing like that. When you go to my parents' neighborhood, and they don't live in a ritzy neighborhood, but it's like, okay, I know you're not wearing a mask because it's your stand and all that shit. So
right.
But Detroit was definitely good to see. And as I told people, when I would go in the past, the firms that I would work with, they never focused on Detroit. So I would just go out leisurely with friends and family. But now that like I have my ear to Detroit, now the conversation is changing of who's doing what, and there's a lot of cross pollination from different, whether it's Savills or Right Size or just a lot of people still think of Detroit. And I'm like, why can't we fucking do that? So. But that's the plan.
Yeah, we'll man. See. I think Detroit, I'm going to reverse myself. I said I haven't given much thought. But Detroit, yeah, definitely, right? I thought about Detroit, and I think about Detroit, and I think that, so this is emerging markets.
Sending out proposals to Detroit.
Yeah, I'm like, right now, let me text somebody, hey, shoot that Qualls package out to everybody. Bedrock, we coming for you, right? I got some stuff to show you. Feel like,
oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So I think that we think about, getting outside the Chicago market. Mm-hmm. Places are really saturated, like New York, San Francisco, LA. Like, what are the new emerging American markets? Mm-hmm. Right. Like, I think Nashville is saturated. Yeah. Like Detroit is emerging, and it has been for a while. Yeah. Right. Milwaukee, I think, has some opportunity. Yeah. Those types of places I think could be kind of interesting, but what are the others? And I think it's worth kind of studying and researching what those things might be other than, what's obvious. Mm-hmm. And some of the barriers to entry in places like Detroit, I think, would be the fact that, you're an outsider. Mm-hmm. You're not one of us, but I know you got boots on the ground there. Mm-hmm. So
mm-hmm. Yeah, that helps. From there for sure. So that helps.
Yeah. You got, and Woody's there now. And
yeah.
And I think that helps. That helps really break into that market. Yeah. Right. And I think that you can be competitive too. Again, back to like the nimble, the sort of nimble ability to function, I think can help. Right. Yeah. Where you're not going to be handcuffed by a corporate oligarch that says, nope, you got to bring $500,000 for this small project. Wait, but this project can't garner that. But we can build a relationship that can be just as, or if not more profitable than this one-off, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that as designers and creatives, we need to get away from the one-off, right? I think it works in high design and high art, but the price tag associated with those things seem to make sense also, right? So we got to stop. And I think that we got to be smarter. And that's one of the things that this is kind of taught me. Not taught me, but it's something I've always known. Architecture is, it's a stupid man's profession. And I don't mean that in a condescending way. I'm just saying that too often we look at products as a sort of singular endeavor. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Where no other business functions that way. Yeah. Unless you're going to 10 or 20x, your return. And that's not happening on the design side.
Unless you're Patrick Mahomes, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He did. Right. But he's amazing. He's like once in a lifetime. It's amazing. Crazy. I'm not even mad at that salary. Was it $500 million, I think, or something like that?
Like 503
and $477 guaranteed with like $140 million injury waiver, whatever that means. So I'm like, man, this guy, and he's got the outs in his contract that he wanted. So if they do anything to violate the contract, he can walk with his guaranteed money. Wow, man,
dude,
yo, That's crazy.
That's nuts.
Theaster Gates has a hoodie that says "Black Wealth Lives Here." He needs to send it to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
he needs to let him borrow it, sign it, buy him one. I hope Theaster is listening.
Amounts of money. Yeah, right. We'll send it over to him.
Yeah, like check this out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, and I think what you were talking about is, the industry has been so much transactional.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what Weisendale, and that's how we're positioning it, is to be more than transactional, right? To cover all the bases, to be able to have that relationship longer than just once we punch list a space.
Right.
But right now, I mean, the focus is more on the marketing, only because it's such on the forefront, and it's taking a lot more to build the architecture portfolio and to build that sort of work.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the backbone of what we're doing at Weisendale, is just building spaces, but then again, this ancillary to help that transition through.
Yeah.
So
interestingly enough, I think it might actually be easier. Like, building an architecture practice is hard, right?
Yeah.
I think it might even be easier to self-start, endeavors rather than actually wait and work towards someone calling you to hire you to be their architect. Mm-hmm. I think that it may in some cases be easier to self-start jobs. And so, and there's like a list of people that have done that. Sebastian Marscal used to work with Jonathan Siegel. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he kind of the same, graduated in the 70s, and there were no jobs, and he bought a small house and renovated it and lived in it for 3 years and then sold it. And he's like, oh man, I made some pretty good money doing that. Why don't I just keep doing that and never work for anybody? And he never did, and so he's an architect and a developer, and he had a course in the seminar that he did for years. I think he still runs it now, which is just about how to do that, how to pull that off, and how to achieve that. And there's those are the kind of things I think that begin to unlock, the not just like the earning potential of the architect, but the ability to do more good, right? Because I think if you're in the creative world, in some ways you're a do-gooder, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a good thing. And we need more good done here in Chicago. Mm-hmm. But the fastest way to get good done is to have money to be able to do good, right?
Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes. Yo.
Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, right. So I think if you create a situation where you can have a larger role in development at a small scale and use your expertise and your skills to become an owner, and then use some of the money from that to further your other interests, I think that you make the city better, you make yourself better, and I think it's a win-win on multiple fronts. And that's really, and it doesn't even make sense where along the lines that architects just become the guy that sits in a chair and does exactly what.
Well, I mean, I always think, are you licensed? Have you ever been licensed? Are you an architect, or? I am a, how do I describe myself? I am the anti-architect. Okay.
I am, it's so funny. I would say the anti-architect. I'm more a business entrepreneur and thinker and creative than an architect, right?
But you went to school for?
I did. I went to school for Virginia Tech for 5 years. I've worked at,
But I'm saying you went to school for architecture.
I did, yes. But I think that it's a means to an end, like many things.
Yeah.
Right? The biggest trick you can fall into is thinking that you will be the star architect. Yeah. Right? And I think that having worked in star architecture firms, there are so few of them. There are probably 10. You can count them on 2 hands, right? There's 10 of them. Mm-hmm. We go down the list, but if you're not that guy, then it really doesn't pay to play in the sandbox, so to speak. Long term, right? I mean, you have to diversify. It's really hard. It's a highly competitive, practice. Even, being at Partners, we are, and I always tell people this, we're the best interiors firm in the world. Mm-hmm. That's what I believe.
Oh my God. I mean, you guys, I know Whitney won the Greater Chicago Food Depository Real Estate Awards, but Partners wins all the time.
Yeah, we were, well,
you guys couldn't apply.
Yeah,
because you guys won twice in a row.
That's right. Because we win too much.
Don't worry. Let me say it. Because you guys win too much.
Yeah.
Let me say it.
Right. And that's just here. I mean, there are people that don't even know about us. I mean, we are, and I'll say this because I worked at SOM. I would say the strongest collection of talent that I've seen.
Yeah.
In practice has been in that office.
Yeah.
And so, but even with that, look, we're a successful firm, but we had to have the best people that I've ever seen in the office to be successful, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that if you look at SOM, that's another firm that is operating at the highest level of architecture. Santiago Calatrava, KPF, same thing, right? Mm-hmm. I think that there are a lot of smaller firms that are struggling. And I think if you just pigeonhole yourself into this bubble of I'm the architect, wait till I get a phone call from a developer, you might have some lean nights. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like,
well, I think it's prideful too, right? Like it's pride. I always know when architects, go through, and there's always been I guess beef between architecture and interior design. And I'm actually going to have Tom Spainer on in the next couple of days to talk about advocacy for interior design. But it is more of a pride thing, right? The profession, like they did a lot to take it 7 tests or however many tests there are to become
6 tests now.
6?
It was 7. Well, 6. 6.
But like
it was 8 and then 6. And
there is that sort of pride, right? And that, they carry that through their profession and their careers. So, why would I belittle myself between, finishes?
Well, I'd rather have fees than pride.
Oh my God.
You know what
absolutely.
I mean? So
absolutely.
All this, like, it was, oh man, pride before the fall. Yeah. My mom used to always tell me that, right? I live by that. And so, hey, I'm not too proud at all, right? I think that pride is a problem. And that's a problem with the profession as well, right? I think, like, there's a lot of work out there to be done as a creative. And I think that to limit and not evolve, like at some point you got to say architects are de-evolving, right? Because business is changing constantly.
Agreed.
COVID has shifted the way people work, and people are still rolling. Architects they seriously can't think that AutoCAD and Revit were like the largest interventions that have happened in the profession. I mean, they were, but they shouldn't have been, right? Like, why hasn't the business model shifted? Mm-hmm. And I think that the future, like I said, is more lean, is more agile. It's one where, how about this? How has the architect been? Man, I'm going to go on a tangent. All right. So, on a good day, depending on the job. All right. 3% of construction costs as design fee. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, of the construction costs. Now, these guys aren't trying to break even. They're not trying to break even on the construction costs. So if you really, if you look at the profit margin at the end of a project, 3% of the construction costs, that's like 0.002% of the deal as a whole.
Yeah.
That's stupid. That's bad business, right? And why in God's name would we think that that's a smart way to practice as a professional? It just doesn't make any kind of sense. And I think that from the contractual side, there's probably greater opportunity to evolve. And not only do you get such a small return, but you have all the liability. You're going to sign your life away. You're going to open yourself up to being sued and liable. When this guy gets all the money, that doesn't make sense. That just sounds like a bad business model. So, right?
Agreed.
So I think that there's going to become a world where.
Well, I think people do that. Yeah. Some the smart ones do that. Have been practicing that way.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, no, but I just think that I just wonder how do developers look at us? Do they look at us as waiters where they want this, this, and this? A waiter / chef where we take their order and we go back to the kitchen and we make it also, and then we come back and then we don't even get 20% tip, but we get 3% tip. You know what I mean? Is that how they look at it? And maybe it's so. Maybe they see the guy coming with a stamp and they say, "There's our idiot that's gonna sign his life away and be liable for all this stuff, and we're only gonna give him the morsels from our plate." I don't know, but I just think that it sounds like a bad deal. So, how do we begin to change the model of how we practice? And does that mean that the way that we structure contracts changes? Does that mean that we have more skin on the game on the front end of the deal or on the back end of the deal, right? So by that I mean, do you finance the design of the job through a certain phase when the developer is flush with cash, and then they can pay you out at a higher margin than you would have otherwise requested?
How do you do that when you need, I don't know, $20,000 worth of rent for your
Yeah.
firm.
Well,
not your,
yeah.
And again, I'm not speaking
No.
on your firm. I'm
Yeah.
speaking on firms in general.
Well-
and that's why I am really excited with Weisendales, because we have that flexibility to
Sure.
be able to say, hey, get us on the back end. Let's
Right.
see how it happens. Let's see how it works
Yeah.
out. And then we'll call from there. So do you know what I'm saying though? Like,
absolutely. I think that, so here's the thing that nobody is kind of talking about. You can only do it from the beginning. You know what I mean? Once the ball is rolling with the architecture business model and you're locked in, you don't have the opportunity to pivot in the way that I'm talking about. Like you're stuck. You're stuck because...
Well, I think you can pivot it. I think it just takes a long time.
It takes
you have to be ready to ride it out.
you have to be ready to write it out. I mean, and I do have a lot of friends that are developers, and they would never admit this, but it's what I've seen. No names, no jobs, just saying. And it's not with my current firm. Again, just saying, it was over a year before we got paid one invoice on a project. So that's the entire team. What does that mean? We were in construction before we got all the money that we invoiced. That means that our labor was financing the job. They're doing it anyway, right? They're doing it anyway. So why don't you get smart? And when you write your contract, you come up with a number that looks really damn good. And you say, listen, I don't want to burden the job on the front end. I don't want to pull down your development fees at all. Let's really try to structure this in a way that makes sense. So the soft cost is shifted because I got the feeling you're going to do this anyway. So if we could front load 25% and then save the 75% in the back, and then we try to find a way to work that into a business model. Maybe that means we do a bunch of smaller jobs simultaneously while we're waiting on the payout for this one. Or you have to get creative with whatever loan or financing, small business loan that you're dealing with, whatever the metric is and the mechanism is, figure it out and then try to get more money, near the back end. And what that's going to do is actually allow you, I think, to, push through the early phases sooner rather than later. And I think to me, ultimately the trigger point is probably going to be around the CD drawings because, that's what they want anyway. They want to be able to get the permit under construction.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you could 25 and then 75 paid upon issuance of permit, then you're saying, I've got skin in the game. If I can't get you this permit, then I don't get my money anyway. Right?
Yeah.
So 25, 75, and then you help them finish the building out. I don't know. I mean, there's had to be...
Yeah, there's different ways.
Yeah, there's got to be a more creative way to get more money. And I think, and because you're right, like architects and engineers are financing these jobs. Like sometimes these payouts are getting pretty long.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'd be like, man, how'd I known that? I mean, you could put it doesn't matter. Why do they matter what numbers in the contract? You can say $500 million. They're not going to pay it until they have the money anyway. So, right?
That's
and
true.
So
Yeah.
So it's
that I mean, that's a deep thought for sure.
Yeah.
Because I think that is important and it is the way that should be done. And I think COVID's helping that. And COVID's accelerating the way that firms are happening and people. I just can't imagine the rent.
Yeah, the rent thing is nuts. I think.
Like, I mean, even if you're at One Madison over there, Big G, like that's huge rents.
Oh yeah,
that's.
Yeah, and I think that's why you see these large firms have these layoffs, which really, I mean, significant layoffs, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's also why I think that it's going to be hard for them down the road.
Yeah.
Because when it starts to dry up and those big projects dry up, then what happens to them when they have all that overhead? They've got 15 principals. You've got 16 associate principals. You've got 30 associates, and then you've got 200 people. I mean, oh my God, and then you've got the overhead, and I said this a few times, and it might be true now. Have we seen the end of the multi-billion-dollar job? I think so. Right? Maybe. I know we had Burj Khalifa. There was the World Trade Center, which was like a $4.6 billion job. I don't know that those things will exist. Right? And so it does make you wonder about building.
What was the first project you mentioned?
The Burj Dubai.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if you think about how people begin to structure, their office, I think it's a time to get lean, right? Because banking on even the $4 million job or the $2 million job, it might be for a while just cobbling together smaller efforts that help you get through, the near term.
Well, and it's also
strain,
diversifying, right?
Yeah.
Like instead of going up, you're going more. You're spreading out more.
Yeah.
And it is a full town that you make your own utopia.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would love, diving into that. Like, I know Sterling Bay is trying to do more of their own ecosystem with their buildings, and I think that is a new wave. It's actually been a wave, but not so many people know about it. But like, I think that's interesting too, right?
Yeah.
Like, utilizing the different spaces that you have for the tenants.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge.
They become like these flex event spaces.
Yeah.
Right. So 1330, Fulton right there. I remember walking in there during Christmas. I was headed to a meeting at Sterling Bay's office, and they had, turned that lobby space, that really huge, beautiful lobby space, into a space for this choir that was singing. And it was just awesome, man. It was like, man, it's Christmas. You know what I mean? It was like, I was like, da, da, da. I was late to the meeting. Dun, da, da, dun, dun, da, da, da. I was, just like feeling it. I went upstairs and they understood. Yeah. So, but it was nice. It was had some chestnuts roasting, but you're right. I mean, I think that the ability to utilize these spaces in a way that could maybe garner some revenue for the developer is huge. Yeah. And it's interesting too. Like, man, we're at such a pivotal moment. I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea.
Me neither.
Right? I have no idea what's going to happen, but it's interesting.
It's so interesting. It's very interesting.
Who knows what's going to, but I just know that we need to evolve and we need to change. We need to be smarter. Yeah. Yeah. And we need to diversify. As creatives, we need to diversify,
Agreed.
And so, and you're building a solid team. I mean, you got some all-stars
for sure
that are working with you. Yeah. And I mean, I'm excited to see where you guys go.
Fuck, man. Yeah. I mean, how do we shouldn't go anywhere from there. We should end it on that.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, yeah, man. Thank you for the support as always. Where can people find you or reach out to you or any? I don't know if you want to drop any of that. Brett gave his home address last week.
Well, Brett's a good friend of mine, but I'm not gonna be as crazy as him to give my home address.
He literally gave his home address, and I dropped where he actually gave his suite number. Yeah, and I'm not gonna fucking put that out there.
Yeah, no. Just hit me up on LinkedIn.
Okay, cool.
Patrick Clay.
Okay.
The black guy in a suit.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Put today a t-shirt.
Today a t-shirt. Yeah. I mean, I'm on Instagram, but not really serious about social media. No Facebook.
Okay.
It's LinkedIn.
Gotcha. LinkedIn.
Yeah. LinkedIn. Clay. Yeah.
Dope, man. Well, thank you, dude. Cheers, real quick.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Your safety is important. If you observe unattended packages, vandalism, or suspicious activity, inform CTA personnel immediately.